In June 2021, a few days before my daughter's first birthday, my husband Eric found a lump in my breast. Within a couple of weeks, we were told that the lump was malignant. I was diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. It had also spread to my lymph nodes, liver, and lower spine. My family's whole world changed as we learned this type of cancer would require me to be in treatment for the rest of my life. I was really fortunate that I had friends who gave me advice and support. One of my friends sent a hairdresser over so I could cut my hair short before I would lose it. Another friend suggested that I get my eyebrows microbladed. And the day before chemo, I felt, empowered and ready to go. Like I did all these things that made me feel strong and beautiful and ready for something that I was obviously very scared about. So we started treatment, a cycle of chemo, radiation, and progress scans. And while we adjusted to this intense new reality, I realized I wasn't afraid of dying. I was afraid of not living. So we made a conscious decision to live now. We had family dance parties every single night. We started golfing. And we started thinking of how we could help other cancer patients who are going through this too, and their families.
I was not feeling great for my 5th round of chemo, and I told Eric that I wanted to start a nonprofit.
And I said, of course you do.
That's how We Got This was born, because there's a huge gap in how we support people living with cancer. What if we could build a community of giving and receiving that helps cancer thrivers and supporters live their best lives? I hope that we ultimately find a cure, but in the meantime, I have to live with this. And though I may never technically become a survivor, I choose today and every day to live my life as a thriver. Thanks to your generosity and support, We Got This launched faster than I could have ever imagined. We've sold out fundraising events in Boston and LA, having a blast celebrating life through golf, and have been so inspired watching our community grow in real time.
We got this!
We've now got an official team, bringing on incredible talent to help shepherd the vision into reality. We've been busy spreading the word of We Got This wherever and however we can. Cancer thrivers can now create a We Got This cancer gift registry. This functions a lot like a wedding or baby registry. It makes it simpler for cancer thrivers to respond when their loved ones ask, "How can I help?" We have a growing number of marketplace partners who offer deep discounts on products that allow thrivers to live their best lives. Our growing We Got This community inspires me to keep on thriving even on the toughest days.
We don't have to associate cancer with just death and being sick. Like, it is bad, we hate cancer. But what it brings out, the good in people, the community around it, that's important.
I would say all the time at the beginning of treatment, I got this, it's okay, I'll do whatever I have to do, I got this. And when it came time to name the nonprofit, I said it just doesn't feel right. Should it be I got this, you got this, and it had to be we, because they're not alone, we're all in it together.
Thank you for your continued support of this mission, because I know that together, we got this. I want to be able to help everyone I can, And then this was where it really clicked for me, that we can help everyone if we work together to do it in an efficient way, because I can't raise the funds to help everyone's, financial needs in the cancer community, unfortunately. But I can aggregate all of these resources together to make it as easy as possible for them to get the help that they need.
Welcome to the Worthy for 30 podcast. I am your host, Eric Tash. Join us as we delve into the world of impactful business leaders who are setting the bar high. Worthy for 30 carefully curates its guests, engaging with business trailblazers who embody the ethos of doing good while doing well. In each episode, we extract actionable tips and wisdom from these visionaries, offering you a blueprint to merge success with social impact. Ready to elevate your business game? Let's dive in and learn how to do good while thriving. Worthy for 30, where purpose meets profit. Welcome back to another episode of the Worthy for 30 podcast. I'm your host and founder, Eric Tash. With me today is WeGotThis.org founder and CEO, Elissa Kalver. Elissa, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, absolutely. And, we got this. It's funny. Alyssa and I got connected through Adina Friedman, who is my sister Allison's very close friend for 20 plus years. And funny enough, when I recorded with Mike LaMagna, Long Wharf Supply, I saw him share some content from We Got This. And then slowly but surely on Instagram, I then saw content that Adina shared. And then one thing led to the next, and we're here. We're connected. We are having a podcast conversation. And I can't wait to dive into your founding story of We Got This, how you got started, why you got started. And before we do that, October just ended. And October is breast cancer awareness. I know when you and I first spoke, there's a lot of statistics being thrown out there about breast cancer awareness, and you're very clear and concise with that awareness. And you're a cancer thriver, having stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. Can you break down the stats for the listeners in terms of breast cancer, 1, and 2, the funding gap for metastatic stage 4 breast cancer versus other stages of cancer?
Absolutely. Well, and based on what you said initially, this was bound to happen. We keep having all these crossovers. So we're clearly cut from the same networking cloth, which I love. And as we come out of October, unfortunately, a lot of us have breast cancer all year long. And it's 1 out of every 8 women who will have breast cancer in their lifetime. Some of those are diagnosed stage 4, what we call de novo, which means like myself, I was diagnosed stage 4 right from the beginning. But 30% of those diagnosed in earlier stages do end up recurring in stage 4. And nearly 100% of deaths from breast cancer happen in stage 4. Of course, a shocking statistic, but what's even more shocking is how little funding goes towards that. So a lot of the pink funds that you see and federal funding towards breast cancer research is only about 2 to 5% is going to stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. And that's something that, of course, I think needs to change. But I also think that a lot of it has to do with where we focus the awareness. And sometimes easier and instinctive for us to lean into things like prevention and saving the tatas and touching your boobs and these things that feel like a bit sexier. And, breast cancer fortunately does have like unbelievable marketing, right? You can't see pink without thinking about it.
Right.
But we really need to start breaking the barriers, I think, on thinking about some of the uncomfortable sides of it too. And that's like with what I live with metastatic breast cancer, I live with terminal cancer. And that's scary for a lot of people to hear that someone in their mid-30s with no family history is diagnosed with terminal stage 4 cancer. But I'm living with it. And that's the big thing that I really try to project and promote is that if we pay more attention to this, the more treatments that we have and the more solutions to keep us alive will allow us to really live a full life as well, cured of cancer or not. And that's the piece that getting out of October, I want to make sure still bleeds through all the pink and all the things that you see, because it's important for not only people like me living with cancer to recognize, but cancer is also not the prerequisite to that. Like we should really focus on all these areas all year long of how we value and live life and where we're focusing awareness and funds to make sure that we are making the biggest impact possible.
Thank you for breaking that down. And in terms of We Got This, so you were diagnosed right before your daughter's first birthday, correct?
Correct.
And when you were diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer, again, no family history of the disease, what was that first instinct, in terms of telling people that you were diagnosed? Because eventually, right, people started sending you blankets like, I don't know what to do now that you told me that you're diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. So what was that first step or that first thought? And then how did that first step turn into We Got This?
It's funny because it's so relevant right now, too. It's kind of coming full circle because initially, like you said, I was diagnosed a few days before my daughter's first birthday. So I wasn't that far off from using Baby List and a baby registry when I was pregnant. And everyone was asking how they could help and what they could do. And I appreciated it so much, but I really didn't know what I needed. And I wasn't that comfortable asking for help anyway.
And so I would respond by saying like, just you reaching out is enough. Thank you so much. And people wanted to help anyway. So like you alluded to, I ended up getting a lot of blankets and I appreciated it so much. It was just so much of a good thing, can sometimes be too much too. And I thought like, wow, we make this so much more productive in the good times, like babies and weddings. Why wouldn't we do that in the hard times too? And this just came up very relevant this week because before we started recording, we were mentioning about how I had surgery on Monday. And I had surgery on Monday. Friends started reaching out. How can I help? What can I do? And I'm talking with my husband, also named Eric, wonderful name. And Eric was like, oh, just let him know, like, we're all set. We're good. Thank you. And I paused and I go, wait a minute. This is the whole thing I started a few years ago, right? We literally said that. And that's why I started this, because there needed to be a better solution. And that solution does exist. And it's called wegotthis.org. So I took myself to my own website that I created. And I actually, for the first time, made my gift registry public. And it was really a full circle of events of realizing like, yes, even though I've really dedicated my life towards this mission of helping others, I need to take my own advice and not only make it easier on myself and my husband, but also give the supporters and my friends and caregivers the ability to be a part of this and to help because they want to. And it stops being just asking people for help. And it starts becoming this community that we're building of giving and receiving that empowers everyone to be able to give and receive help. And it's amazing, even though I've been so immersed in this for the past few years, like the past 24 hours of having my registry live is a feeling I really hadn't felt before. And I got the email notifications of people sending DoorDash gift cards rather than calling to see what I wanted for dinner, which like, I appreciate any gesture, but like, you know, I'm pretty tired and out of it. And like, just by doing the registry, they saw like, oh, Elissa uses Grubhub or DoorDash or whatever it is. And then, you know, I registered for things like Squishmallows and donations to We Got This. You know, I didn't need to put any blankets on there because I have plenty. But if I did, I could have done that too. So That's really where this all stemmed from, was this need that I uncovered the gap in. And I'm living it and experiencing it in real time, which surprises even myself.
That is tremendous. And it really speaks to your entrepreneurship bona fides. Because when we first spoke, you are a proud Babson graduate. And
yes.
when I was first talking, I'm like, wait a minute, like it makes sense. Like to me, at least, it makes sense, you know, that you went to Babson. Because again, you're like, okay, there's a gap here. You know, people are sending me blankets. I appreciate the gesture, but I really want to tell them what I actually want and need. And you did your research. And again, for all the aspiring entrepreneurs, you know, follow Elissa's thought process in terms of doing research. Again, it's not commissioning hundreds or thousands of dollars worth of research. You know, again, you let your fingers do the walking, you talk to people, you went on Google, there was nothing there. So you created it. And you were able to assemble a team now to help you produce and to maintain the wegotthis.org website and community, which is tremendous. Speaking of that entrepreneurship, I just want to take a little bit of a detour because before you and I recorded, I direct messaged you on Instagram about my friend Chelsea, another Babson alum. Because every time you post something about Babson, I tag Chelsea. I'm like, check this out, check this out, check this out. And, and I'm pretty sure, and I'll make sure she's following We Got This. I think she is, and you. But she asked me to ask you what your freshman entrepreneurship, I think there was a required class freshman year.
Yes, FME, Foundation Management Experience, if it's still called that. That's what it was called when I was there. And it's funny because coincidentally, my freshman year business at Babson was a blanket business. And I joked about this with another Babson alum who owns a company called Beantown Blankets that's doing great things, more of a B2B model that's similar to like the Bombas model of, you know, giving one, buy one, give one. Yeah, it's just so funny that I look back on that and our business was Pride Blankets. It was customizable fleece blankets. And the biggest thing I remember, which is just so funny at like entrepreneurship school year one, is our first shipment of blankets. The cargo plane crashed and we lost our entire first shipment of inventory. And it really was like a very real life business scenario. It's really was an unbelievable experience. We ended up doing well. I, of course, was one of the top salespeople. And that was really the niche I've been in for most of my career. But so many cool businesses have come out of Babson, of course, like Bombas I mentioned earlier and Beantown Blankets, but also a lot just from that freshman year experience, and the money goes to charity. And we learn early on in the entrepreneurship career that there should always be a philanthropic component, whether it's a day of service or something where, that's been something ingrained in my mind since starting in business. And I never knew that it would be the forefront of what I did. I never was really in the nonprofit world before we got this, other than like fundraising and things for other causes I believed in. But it really is something that has been this like magical experience now that I do work so much with for-profit corporations on a philanthropic level. It's cool to see that come full circle. And luckily we don't hold any inventory, so we haven't had any plane crashes.
Oh my goodness. Knock on wood, knock on wood. And that's great. And looking back, you're able to connect the dots of that past experience at Babson to fast forward to now, again, being that entrepreneur and launching and sustaining and growing and scaling We Got This. And for it to turn into a community, as what you mentioned, thrivers, survivors, loved ones coming together, figuring out, okay, how can we support one another? How can we drive that awareness? Because that byproduct, again, from what you were talking about in terms of raising awareness throughout the course of the year, again, is a big component of We Got This in terms of that awareness and that education, which is tremendous. Can you break down the marketplace aspect? You mentioned you had surgery on Monday, you created a We Got This registry, your Squishmallows, your DoorDash gift cards. Yes, if I'm creating a registry right now, where do I go? Like, how do I know which products and services to include? Does We Got This provide that to me to help me make those choices?
So we're made up really of three main core buckets, and it's registries, recommendations, and resources. And so the registry portion is built just like any other registry. You can register for anything you could need from anywhere, any website. It doesn't matter if we partner with them or not. Like, you can add that in. It could be Amazon or Target, but it could be Etsy or direct from a company's site. It really doesn't matter. Within that, we don't make anything from that. We're just providing a platform for people to be able to benefit and use. The recommendations portion is huge because, like I said, I didn't know what I needed. So a lot of the recommendations are crowdsourced and we're building that ongoing. And that's where we started partnering with brands. So a big example for me was Bombas, where there's no seams in the toes. And I was getting these constant infections in my toes and cuticles from chemo. And a friend recommended them because there were no seams. And by switching to them, it honestly made a huge comfort difference in my life. And so that was kind of the first example of okay, we need to be giving these examples because no one's talking about their cuticle infections. Like, if you ask a cancer patient how they're doing, they're not going to be like, oh man, my mucositis, or right. You don't think about telling the average person that. And it allows also to educate on what we're going through where we might not otherwise think to do so, like in this scenario. So we started partnering with brands like Bombas and Crocs and companies that align with our values and have, products that will provide comfort and joy and all that good stuff to thrivers. The way we started it, we're actually shifting from, and I think you'll appreciate this from a business perspective, is initially I wanted to do a dropship model. And it was actually Bombas who said, we're happy to work with you, but we can't do a dropship model because you would need access to our website. And we don't let anyone have that. So we decided to go the route of affiliate codes and having discount codes where the setup was normally about a 20% off discount and then an additional 10% that would get donated to We Got This with every purchase. So we set up what we initially called our marketplace. Now it's called the recommendations page, and it has all these affiliates and partners. But what started happening was the people that were coming to the site, this is for anyone because it would benefit us for anyone to use these codes, and it benefits the companies because they're getting new customers. But people started saying oh no, I'm not going to use that code. I don't want to take away from patients. And we're like, no, that helps us. And it's usually the patients who aren't using the codes because they're registering for the things for other people to gift them. So we've realized that needed to shift. We didn't quite break the paradigm on that. And so what we're doing now with the creation of Shopify Collective, you can do drop shipping with other Shopify stores without needing any additional access. It's like a click of a button. And that got created in the meantime of me creating We Got This. So we're really excited about it. We just did it with our one of our first partners, Flipmits. And if you go to wegotthis.org now and go to our store, you'll see like there's Flipmits there. And that's drop shipped through their site. And so the user experience is the same. But now is where we can take the time to really build that out a lot more. And that's really where, even by the time hopefully this podcast airs, there'll be more to see. But that's really where we're growing towards, is having like how Babylist has a full-on marketplace in addition to their registry. Ours would be the same way. And it has been, just we've had to make some shifts to make it make sense.
Makes sense and make it more seamless and integrated. And like any traditional Shopify store experience where the consumer, they're buying or purchasing the registered item, as well as knowing that item is coming directly from that manufacturer without having to do much or leave the site, more or less. It's rather seamless.
Exactly. And what's interesting with all this and why it's been so fun, but also a tremendous amount of work, is because we really are run like a business. I mean, going into this, there was a lot of time that I took to see which way it should be structured. Should it be a for-profit business with a social mission, or should it be a nonprofit? And to be honest, the only thing that tipped it over to be a nonprofit for me was that first and foremost, I wanted it to exist as quickly as it possibly could. And I felt like the best way for me to do that was to go out there and do it myself, fundraising. And that's what I did. And that's what we're doing. And so we are so grassroots bootstrapped, but a lot of times it seems like we're bigger than we are, because we are this like nonprofit tech startup by someone not in tech with a lot of great people, have helped along the way, and our team getting built out. But, we were facing a lot of these business challenges that all nonprofits face, like with funding and things like that, but none of the other nonprofits face, because we're digging so much into the platform and really this whole new way of this gap where I thought we could help people.
1,000%. And it's, I imagine, for the listeners and for the people that we'll be sharing this conversation with, what brands, are on your wish list to join that marketplace, that recommendation page for We Got This? What are some items or some brands that people who are setting up registries wish We Got This has on it?
So one of the biggest requested items, and I feel like I'm pretty good at finding a connection to most places, but I tell you, Squishmallow, I cannot get in touch with you. If anyone's listening that has a connection to Squishmallows, that is probably our most registered product. I have multiple of them on my personal registry. I really enjoy Squishmallows. They're super comfortable, but they also do help like quite a bit, like while in chemo and other pillow scenarios, and I can share them with my daughter. That's definitely a big one. Another one I've reached out to a bunch of times is the Oura Ring. I use the Oura Ring personally. It's great for like vitals and sleep and all that. They haven't hopped on to partner up with us like so many others. So if they see this, maybe reach out.
If they see this, reach out. And what's amazing, again, as I mentioned before we started recording, I draft off of the joie de vivre that you emanate, Elissa, is we're only one person removed from someone we want to reach, right? So, after this conversation, LinkedIn is a great resource. Who's that mutual connection to Oura Ring? Who's that mutual connection to Squishmallow? It's not an if, it's a when. These two brands are going to be on the We Got This recommendation page.
Appreciate it. Excited to update when that happens. And what I will say is fortunately, getting brands to partner has definitely not been the obstacle. There are so many amazing companies out there, and almost everyone we've been connected to or reached out to has not only wanted to be a part of it, but helped in bigger ways. I mean, we've been surprising patients with championship belts and championship rings from Trophy Smack, which is one of my favorites from Shark Tank. Mark Cuban invested in them, and they just recently donated $10,000 to us to really kickstart a campaign that we're doing in terms of my public speaking and this road to 1 million. And most will work with us and want to. It's very mutually beneficial, not only because it makes people feel good, but it's beneficial like from a marketing and business perspective too. A big piece is really getting beyond just the partnerships and in-kind donations and really finding some of these bigger partners, like how Trophy Smack stepped up and wrote a check. From the beginning, I started with a GoFundMe, which now you don't need to use GoFundMe because you can fundraise right within your We Got This registry if you're a cancer survivor. But everything we've raised has been peer-to-peer and fundraising. And so now is really the shift in my mind of where we need to make some bigger moves because I can only do so much, so I'm told. And it's not sustainable for me to be going after every donation. So we're really trying to get partners in a bigger way that we can really help and make a big impact on the cancer community and on the supporters of it.
Right. And, it's funny. I've had these conversations again, not unlike what you said with, the Ben Irwins of Charity Buzz, Stephen Reddy of Inspired. Like, how do we think about charitable giving throughout the year? How do we think about charitable giving and supporting causes, great causes like We Got This, not as a reactive measure, but as a proactive measure, like as easy as breathing. How can we support amazing organizations without even really having to think about it? Absolutely. It's not the brands per se, but it's that year-round support. And if it is the brands, how can those brand partners, be involved in a bigger way, whether it's grants or other nonprofits, brands, whomever, individuals, philanthropic organizations can write bigger checks to help We Got This and its mission scale and grow, not unlike startups or tech startups that you mentioned.
Well, I can give you another example there too, because I'm not just asking for money. We did actually a year ago, a day of service. We did it this past year too for Babson. And we were putting together joy boxes for patients at Children's Hospital. And they had toys in it and things like that. And one of the alumni was like, would you ever need more toys? And we're like, yeah, it'd be great.
Right.
And he's like, well, I work for a toy company. And I was like, oh, which one? And he was like, Lego. I was like, oh yeah, I've heard of that.
I heard of it.
Yeah. So we actually just recently partnered up with the Viewpoint School, which is already a partner of Lego. And what we did was we went to Viewpoint right nearby here in Calabasas, and they got a bunch of the students throughout the day to build Lego flowers. And we've taken those and have started distributing them to different patients and hospitals and other nonprofits. And it kind of stemmed from when I talked to Viewpoint and our friends at Lego. I was like, I was gifted Lego flowers and I loved it because one, you're not really supposed to give fresh flowers to like someone who has really bad immune system, depending on where you're at in the hospital and stuff. But also it's kind of depressing seeing flowers die. It's kind of a means to an end there. Right. And so having the Lego flowers I've had for like 2 years, on my kitchen table, I'm like, these are great. With the kids, we built there was orchids and succulents, like roses, all these different Lego flowers, and we've been delivering them. And that's like just another example of a company being able to do something through other partners. And we brought together so many people in the community to not only help directly to give to patients, but also to spread the word so that people know that this platform and resource exists. And it's those kind of like win-win-win scenarios that we can do all day, with people who have the same mindset. And luckily, so many people out there do. And so it's been a lot of fun seeing a lot of that come to fruition.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If, again, make someone smile or distract them or occupy their time doing something very constructive, like building Lego flowers, goes, again, the coefficient factor is so huge. And then to your point, then there's more awareness about We Got This. And then it's the thrivers and the supporters and the survivors, yes, visiting the site, but then it's the other folks within the ecosystem. How can I help? I think really that's what it boils down to is how can I help? Like you just said, it's not just about writing checks. It's more than that. There are many different ways you can support this amazing mission. Elissa, you mentioned Road to $1 Million and you mentioned keynote speaking. Talk to us about that, please.
Okay. So what happened was last October, a friend's company was like, would you mind hopping on Zoom and telling your story and about your nonprofit to the company? I was like, of course, like what a great opportunity to spread the word. And so I did. And then they donated, a pretty hefty sum after. And I was like, wait a minute, why am I not doing this more? What a great thing. I get to spread awareness and we can raise money. So from then on, I pretty much kind of had that in the back of my mind. About 6 months ago, I really dug in deeper on the public speaking aspect. And it's personally just something that I love. I've always been in sales. I've been an advisor running 401k meetings and things like that. And getting in front of an audience is something I really enjoy and I'm comfortable with. And so digging into that this past October, we really planned ahead. And I got to speak at Amazon. I went out to New York, spoke at a tech startup called Salonis, Universal Music Group, and got to really spread the word while also getting some great donations that way. Another win-win scenario. So when looking into kind of this idea of like, okay, I want to leverage our mission, my ability to talk about what I'm going through and my experience. And really all of this boils down to like my topic. And I recently wrote a book that is in pre-sales right now that will ship in June. And it's all about redefining success. It's about redefining what it means to win. In my case, what it means to beat cancer. You know, even if I'm not cured from it, I still feel like I'm beating it every day and I'm living life. And if I get to live a full life, that's beating it also, or whatever of that I get to live in full. And so that kind of led to this road to $1 million idea. So I proposed to Trophy Smack. I was like, I want to hit $1 million raised by the end of 2024. And I'm going to leverage it through my public speaking or any ways that we can. And along the way, I want to surprise patients and thrivers and survivors with championship belts. I want to, go to different companies, like just educate on this idea that we should value living life and building this community of giving and receiving. So we're getting close. I mean, we have like 100,000 to go. In the past 2.5 years, we've raised about 900,000. The largest donation is the 10,000 that Trophy Smack gave. So most of those donations, well under $1,000 or $100. It really was made up of so many people believing in this idea. And so through the end of this year, I just want to smash that goal. That's what I've been calling the road to $1 million, is just like, it started out with me not thinking I could raise 10 or 20,000 on GoFundMe, and we raised over 100,000. And then now we're almost at $1 million. And all of that money, I mean, I've been fully volunteering my time and, which I can't do forever, but I'm really prioritizing like this becoming as big as it possibly can so that as many people as possible can use it. And I feel like we're really at the cusp of being able to really run in such a self-sustaining way, a lot with the marketplace we're building out and other things, but we need money to do that. There's certain things you can get volunteers for. Building out tech platforms is not one of them. And I know, a lot of times it doesn't seem like the thing you want to donate to, like you want a cure and you want all this stuff. And yes, absolutely. But in the meantime of us curing cancer, alongside all that, like, let's really support people in living their life. I'm so proud of what we've done. And anyone listening wants to be involved in helping us get there. Our next big thing is December 3rd. We're going to do kind of our We Got This Give-a-thon, kind of our own version of like a telethon. So we'll have more info for that coming out soon.
That's excellent. And I'm going to include that in the call notes and the write-up where folks can follow you, Elissa, and also follow We Got This, get involved. Of course, as these developments happen in real time, of course, updating the Worthy for 30 community on how you can support We Got This and getting to $1 million, because that was going to be my next question, is like, how do we help? It's so close. You're right on the precipice.
Yes, it's so close. So, and there's two main things. So like, of course, fundraising is so important. And then just as important is us getting more registry users, because that's where we're doing all this, And last month, we were very fortunate to have an exclusive segment on Good Morning America, which was amazing. Our registries have gone up over 50% since then. So I'm adding into this mix that I want to hit the $1 million mark by the end of the year. And I also want to hit 2,000 registries. We're at about 1,500. So, now through then, that's really where we're going to be pushing our efforts is, for those who aren't able to donate, or in addition to donating, please use the registry if it applies to you. Please tell a friend about it if you can. If you are able to donate, whether it's your time, intellectual property of ideas, and of course, cold hard cash is always welcomed. It really helps us to keep progressing our mission and being able to do what we're doing. And I'm so grateful to get to do this. It's been amazing.
I can imagine, because it's funny, like the premise or the concept started with, I got this. And it quickly evolved to We Got This. And it's amazing how you speak and how you've used your diagnosis as a launching pad to help people and have like just such a tremendous impact. I get a little emotional because it's just absolutely amazing. It's like, how can we help you? And then of course, how can we of course help the people who are going to be listening, who are going through cancer treatment or are in remission, the loved ones who don't know where to go, where to turn, where are the resources? I do have my medical team, but I need some more emotional support, some mental health support. Where do I go? And, We Got This has created this platform to be that one-stop resource and shop for those folks who are asking these questions in real time, which I think is tremendous.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the support so much. And, if you head to wegotthis.org and find a registry or start one yourself, you can see what it's all about. And of course, you can donate there, pre-order my book. Also, please reach out to us. If you need anything, if you email info@wegotthis.org, there's me, Jillian, Sarah, and Amber on my team. So it comes to all four of us. And we really do all we can. Something really neat that happened recently was someone that we support and had a registry reached out, and she was done with treatment for breast cancer, but then had a possible cancer in her thyroid. And so she was about to go back to work and all of a sudden couldn't. And she was like, I literally can't pay rent next month. She's like, I don't know what to do. And we're not really set up to be able to help everyone financially in that way. But a big piece that I mentioned of like our main few things is resources. And that's other nonprofits that we partner with. And we reached out to one of those nonprofits called the Change Reaction that's local here in LA. And we told them the situation. And within 24 hours, they got her rent check for the next month. And it was really unbelievable that it clicked in my mind, because initially when I set up the nonprofit, I started donating to other things. Like we did a lot of things like joy boxes for children at CHLA and, donating some funds towards other stuff. Cause I'm like, I want to be able to help everyone I can, And then this was where it really clicked for me that we can help everyone if we work together to do it in an efficient way, because I can't raise the funds to help everyone's, financial needs in the cancer community, unfortunately. But I can aggregate all of these resources together to make it as easy as possible for them to get the help that they need. And so in the short term, a lot of it is us shuffling together to figure it out. But in the big picture, what we're building out with the website is a very intuitive way to be able to pull resources like how you would, if you went to Nike and you're selecting your shoe size and low tops or high tops, you're selecting chemo or surgery, what type of cancer you have, do you have kids? Because a lot of these things, a lot of what people register for aren't just for themselves. It might be that they need stuff to keep their kids busy. And so that's been a big thing I've realized is just I know we say it a lot and not everyone really feels it. And I feel it wholeheartedly that we are so much better together. We are so much stronger as a team and we can do more and make a bigger impact when we work together. And I've seen it in action. And so that's what I really want to keep doing.
Worthy for 30 community is going to help in any way that we can, to support, to drive awareness, contributions, get to that $1 million mark before the end of 2024, get to that 2,000 registry mark before the end of 2024. And what's amazing, and I want to end this conversation on this note. So what Elissa has really outlined for everyone who's listening, and I say it from the soles of my feet, is that life is so much richer, right? When we're of service to other people. It is absolutely, it's just the infinite return and the impact that we have on people, the places, experiences when we think about other people. Quick anecdote I want to also end on is I read an article, I think it was maybe Forbes, wherever it was about Dave Goldberg, the former SurveyMonkey CEO who was married to Sheryl Sandberg, passed away. And an employee told a story about how he wanted to move to Singapore. And he told Dave Goldberg that I want to move to Singapore. And Dave's like, we don't have an office there. And the employee was like, okay, then I have to leave the company. And then Dave was like, did his research unbeknownst to the employee, found a VC's office based in Singapore, had him set up this employee to prevent him from leaving the company, to move to work for SurveyMonkey from Singapore. So he can still, yes, be a SurveyMonkey employee. This is before they went public, and also be able to vest his shares. And the quick anecdote was, you want to give in the way people wanted to receive. And I think that's what We Got This is doing. It is allowing people to list out what they need and what they want in the way and the manner that they want to receive it. And I hope that the folks who are listening to that, again, that selflessness, that of service mentality, I hope that really resonates, because it is truly inspiring and motivating. And I hope the folks who are going to be listening and the many people that I'll be talking to before this and after this episode airs really grasp that concept. So Elissa, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. And it's been such a pleasure getting to know you and all that you're doing. So thank you. And together, we definitely got this.
We got this. Excellent. Thank you for joining this episode of the Worthy for 30 podcast. Stay tuned for more insights from impactful business leaders. Don't miss out. Follow us on all podcast platforms to catch every conversation.